Let's work on converting between degrees and radians. Remember, degrees and radians are just two different ways of measuring an angle. Just like you can measure a distance in feet or inches, you can measure an angle in degrees or radians. The most important thing to know about degrees and radians is that 180 degrees is equal to pi worth of radians. That's what we're going to want to keep equal to one another. To do these conversions, we're going to use something you may have used in chemistry class. It's sometimes known as the railroad method there, or the factor label method. Those of you who like step 1, step 2, step 3, these are the steps that I will be using to convert back and forth between radians and degrees. But essentially what it all boils down to is every single time we are converting from degrees to radians or radians to degrees, we're going to be multiplying that angle by either pi over 180 or 180 over pi, depending on which direction we're going. And where did that come from? Well, remember 180 degrees is equal to pi radians. So this multiplier ends up just meaning we're multiplying by 1. So let's begin with 80 degrees. How do I convert 80 degrees to radians? Well, we're going to start with the angle they give us, which is 80 degrees, and we're going to put it over 1 to turn it into a fraction. Now, we want to multiply this by another fraction. So we're going to draw that blank line to give us a fraction. And here's the tricky part. Whatever the angle is that they gave us, whatever we're measuring in on the top, that is the angle that measurement that we're going to put on the bottom. So since I have 80 degrees on the top of my original one, I'm going to put degrees or 180 degrees on the bottom of the next fraction. Then 180 degrees is equal to pi radians, so I'll put that up here. Now, why would I do that? Because remember, in fractions, tops cancel bottoms. So the degree angle on the top and the degree label on the bottom will cancel each other out. And now we just have two fractions that we can multiply. And so we're going to multiply across the tops. That's how you multiply fractions. So that'll give me 80 pi. 1 times 80 on the bottom, it gives me 180 degrees on the bottom. And so we end up with 180 pi over 180. To finish this off, we need to put it in our calculator. So in order to get this finished, we're going to use our fraction button, and we're going to type 80 and then the shift button and the times 10 to the x button, which is where that pi is. You can see that right there. We're going to put that over 180. We'll type that 180. And if we hit enter, you can see our calculator will reduce that fraction down for us. And 180 pi over, 80 pi over 180 is the same as 4 pi over 9. So our final answer here will be 80 degrees is the same as 4 pi over 9 radians, or 4/9 of pi radians. Let's give this another try. Oh, by the way, if you don't have access to your calculator, that's okay. You can use my favorite ever website, which is Desmos.com. You can go to Desmos.com. They have a scientific calculator. So you just go Desmos.com/scientific and it'll bring you to this. The problem with this one is we have to do a little bit of tweaking, because if we just use the fraction button and we do 80 pi over 180, it doesn't give us a reduced fraction. It gives us this ugly looking decimal, and that's not what we need. So we're going to hack this by putting in just the 80 and the 180 without the pi and let the calculator do the work from there. So we're going to do 80 over 180. Then we're going to come over here to the right, and do you see this little fraction looking thing? This is going to convert the decimal answer 0.444444 repeating into the fraction 4/9. And now we just got to remember, oh yeah, there was a pi there, and we get 4 pi over 9. So even if you're at home, you can do this problem on a calculator. Let's do the last two really quickly. So they gave us negative 140 degrees. We start with negative 140 degrees over 1. Since we have degrees in the top, we'll put our 180 degrees in the bottom, which is equal to pi radians. Our labels of degrees cancel. We multiply across the top. That's negative 140 pi over 180. We put that into our calculator. Negative 140. You don't even need the negative. Just remember that it's negative. 140 pi over 180, and that gives us negative 7 pi over 9. Notice that a negative angle in degrees is also going to be a negative angle in radians. Just remember, it means we're going the other direction. 675 degrees is a little bit more interesting because it is bigger than 360. So this is going to be more than 100 or 360 degrees, or more than 2 pi. But because we have degrees on the top, we'll put the 180 degrees on the bottom, the pi on the top. Degrees cancel. We get 675 pi over 180. Put that into our calculator. And we get 15 pi over 4.